But without further ado, here is Diwa de Leon with How I Abandoned My Successful Film Music Career to Go Work on Beeps and Boops.
Thank you, Rick. Hello. I hope you don't mind. I don't usually do formal talks like this, so I have a handy little script in here. But yes, hello, my name is Diwa de Leon. I am a full-time composer, music producer, and content creator. And I have been so for the past 30 plus years. And just like everyone else in this room, I see you, I am also a big gaming nerd. I love open world RPGs. I'm currently super obsessed with Genshin Impact, and I've started playing Crimson Desert. Any Crimson Desert players here? Yes. I see two. On the internet, I used to go by the moniker String Player Gamer, but recently I have rebranded to the artist name Lionmight, which is a poetic English translation of my real name. I grew up in the Philippines, a family of musicians and artists, and the occasional lawyer. But now I'm based here in Baltimore, right here in town. Baltimore, baby. And that is a journey that is like 7 years in the making. But before I continue, I would like to ask the audience, anyone can talk? There's no wrong answer. But what was your first video game music moment? My first video game music moment was when I finally got my Super NES, 11 years old. I begged my mom to finally buy me that Legend of Zelda Link to the Past. And the moment I reached Kakariko Village, I was so mesmerized by the Kakariko Village theme by Koji Kondo, the master. And I just put down my controller and I just stood there frozen in time, listening to the music with Link just standing there with chickens. And maybe I'll ask 3 random audience members, what was your first video game music moment? You there with a computer.
First game moment I remember, it wasn't when I was playing. It was when I successfully played the first few bars of Megalovania.
Nice. Red Jacket.
My first time was when I was playing Pokemon White, and I engaged with Team Plasma in combat for the first time. And when the intro music hit, I was like, what?
There. That reaction, exactly. You. Yes. Love that. Yes, I see someone, sir, with a cap. Yeah.
Super Mario Galaxy.
Yes.
Go inside of a pipe and there's like this ethereal like music going on, and then you step outside and it's just like this, like the camera zooms out and like you just see Gateway Galaxy. It's great.
Yeah, I remember that. Maybe from this section. You. There we go.
All the other music is very like synth heavy and very energetic, and then Planet Wind it starts out with a very beautiful piano, and then comes in with a like calm bass, and it is just it's really one of the prettiest songs in the entire game, in my opinion.
Amazing. How about this one? Yeah, you, sir. Lots of Sonic fans here. Maybe one like, no, you with a Ness. Is that a Ness shirt?
I'm gonna say Minecraft.
Yeah.
Like, just like the creative mode music in specific, because like whenever I open a super flat world and it starts playing that music, I just get memories to like back then playing with my family and stuff.
Very nice. Thank you so much for sharing your video game music moment. And yes, a lot of these are like video game music moments happened in my experience and in my findings. It's because we have easy access to the technology. Here in America, we have access to every single gaming console. It's just an Amazon order away. And it's very easy for Americans, especially America has some of the most specialized conventions and expos and events centered towards video game music, like our very own MagFest and every other satellite event from MagFest. We have VGMCon in Minnesota and MagWest, the MagFest in the West, and all that. We have all these centralized celebratory moments because we have this easy access to the media. We have, I would say, a nationwide access to the music of the games as presented to us by the technology, the consoles, the high-end PCs, and the $80 game titles nowadays. But, and this is a question I ask myself, how does one actually become a video game music fan? It's easy for us here in America and most of the Western world because we have more access to all the media. And now I want to show you a 20-minute self-produced documentary. I wrote it, directed, and produced. And when I traveled back home to the Philippines for the first time in a while back in 2024, and this documentary is called I Abandoned a Successful Film Composing Career for Video Game Music, or as the title in the program says, for Beeps and Boops. In this documentary, I basically ask myself the question, how does one become a fan of video game music? Because what if it is a country where owning a PS4 or even a PS3 is considered a high-end luxury? Does that make a nation of video game fans if only a few people have access to the art? And what if all they have access to is free-to-play mobile games, not usually known for their high-end music? Or maybe there are some exceptions, like the recent gacha games. They've been upping their game. But in those days, in the early 2010s, you don't really have any memorable music titles like Super Mario Brothers theme or Legend of Zelda theme that's come out from those early era mobile free-to-play games. And these are the questions I explored in this documentary. It is a 20-minute documentary, and I hope you enjoy it. And I'm gonna play it for you now. So I will come back, we will talk again. I will open the floor for questions. But yes, please enjoy the documentary. Thank you. All good?
I left the Philippines and migrated to the United States in 2017, abandoning a lauded career as a film composer,
Arranger, and musician Diwa de Leon.
Diwa de Leon.
Diwa de Leon.
Diwa de Leon. Diwa de Leon.
Diwa de Leon.
chasing the dream of a career in video game music. But how does someone even begin to dream of that? How do the places we grow up in, our early experiences, and the sounds we hear shape who we become? In this video, I attempt to find the answer. This is my video game music story. Coming back to Manila felt a bit like flipping through an old photo album. Every scene reminded me of the familiar comforts of home. The sounds, the sights, the pace of life. But just like an old album, it's not the whole picture anymore. Hi, I'm Diwa, also known as Lionmight. I'm a composer, violinist, and lifelong fan of video game music. When I first started out, I was creating video game music covers and music videos on YouTube, celebrating the soundtracks I love and building a small community around that passion. But as YouTube trends evolve, I started including video essays, reactions, and deep dives into the musical elements that make these soundtracks so powerful. Leaving the Philippines was a huge decision and terrifying. As I boarded that plane, these questions echoed in my mind. What if I fail? Would I face the flight of shame back home? And most of all, is my passion for video game music strong enough to carry me through? It was time to find out. As I reflect on my journey, now at the 7th anniversary of this adventure, from growing up in the Philippines to building a career in the United States, I keep coming back to one question. How does one become a dedicated fan of video game music? Is it simply about playing the right games or hearing the right melodies? Or does it run deeper? What kind of person has the audacity to dream so big that they abandon 37 years of life, a career, and everything they've built just for video game music? This question isn't just personal. It's shaped by culture, access, and the opportunities we have to pursue our passions. Growing up in Manila, where consoles were a luxury and gaming culture took on its own unique forms, my experience with video game music was shaped by circumstances very different from what I see in the US today. My recent trip back to the Philippines brought this into sharp focus, offering a front row view of how gaming and the music that defines it takes on different meanings depending on where you're from. When I was about 7 years old, the family computer, our version of the Nintendo Entertainment System or NES, introduced many Filipino kids to the iconic sounds of Super Mario Bros., Rockman, and Contra. It was a cultural icon, bringing the magic of gaming to neighborhoods everywhere. And sure, other consoles like the Game Boy and the Sega systems had their time in the sun too, but it was really the family computer that became a cultural icon for us. I can never forget the moment I became a lifelong video game music fan, and that is when I reached Kakariko Village in The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for the Super NES. I just had to put down my controller and just listen to the wonderful composition by Koji Kondo. Truly magical. Later on, the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era made games like Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Solid, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and Parappa the Rapper accessible through, let's call it, creative means. For a time, gaming and its music felt universal. But as consoles became pricier, gaming grew less accessible, and its music faded as a shared experience. During the 90s, LAN games like Diablo 2, StarCraft, and Counter-Strike dominated internet cafes. While unforgettable to play, their soundtracks, though brilliant in atmosphere, lack the kind of melodies that linger in memory the way iconic Nintendo soundtracks did. Then, in 2003, from the realm of PC online gaming, Ragnarok Online swept the Philippines, sparking an MMO craze that defined a generation. With its charming visuals, shared virtual worlds, and of course, unforgettable soundtrack, created a cultural moment. Songs like Frontera's theme became etched in the hearts of players, evoking nostalgia even today. I was all in, organizing guild meetups, co-leading a 400-member guild in tournaments, and making lifelong friends. Those bonds, born from dungeon raids and epic battles, remain some of the most important connections in my life. And furthermore, my visibility within the local Ragnarok online community even turned me into a bit of a celebrity, which I used as leverage to promote my artistry within that tight-knit group. It was a fleeting moment, but in hindsight, it felt like a foreshadowing of my larger role in the global VGM community today. By the early 2010s, the craze faded, but Ragnarok's music lives on, a timeless echo of a golden era in gaming in the Philippines. As gaming technology advanced, with newer consoles like the PlayStation 3, 4, and 5, something else evolved alongside it. Exclusivity. Console prices climbed higher, making them increasingly unreachable for the average Filipino gamer. At the same time, the gaming industry introduced better methods to combat piracy, introducing always online requirements and other measures that made creative means of access almost impossible. Not to mention, the Philippine government finally decided to crack down on piracy directly. The result? Console gaming as a widespread cultural phenomenon began to fade. Without the accessibility that defined earlier eras, the days of gaming uniting entire neighborhoods or becoming the talk of classrooms were slowly replaced by smaller, more isolated communities of console enthusiasts who could afford to keep up. And by this time, mobile gaming with its popular free-to-play models was rapidly gaining a foothold in the country. For many, console gaming had transitioned from a shared cultural experience into a niche luxury. And any hope for a cultural explosion of such iconic console-based video game music in the Philippines died with it. Most regular Filipinos know the Super Mario Bros. Theme, and that's it. Meanwhile, here in the United States today, entire orchestras are dedicated solely to video game music. In Maryland alone, where I'm based, there are 3 VGM-focused orchestras. Across the country, there are likely over 20, plus countless duos, trios, and full bands devoted to performing music from games. This is what happens when a niche passion is allowed decades to thrive. Cultivated by a passionate community, the video game music industry has become an unstoppable cultural phenomenon in the United States. It's an art form that's been nurtured here, embedded in conventions like the Music and Gaming Festival, or MagFest, and VGM Con, streaming, live concerts, and online content. I remember it as if it was yesterday, but it was 2016, my first MagFest, and almost immediately as I was walking the convention halls, people started to recognize me, and they're calling me by my YouTube channel name at that time, String Player Gamer. I love your videos. And I was like, oh wow. I feel like a celebrity. They approached me, they thanked me for the music that I upload on my YouTube channel. They said they watch it, they enjoyed it. And I was like, this is it. This is where I should be. I found my people. Console gaming's legacy, with soundtracks from long-standing iconic franchises such as the Final Fantasy series, Legend of Zelda, and Pokemon, which have been integral to gaming for decades, has fostered a very dedicated crowd, one that has grown alongside the industry and often has disposable income to spend on VGM cover albums, vinyl, tickets to live performances, and artist merch. And as we now head into the era of multi-platform games, Soundtracks such as Plants vs. Zombies and Undertale have also become beloved. If we consolidate statistical estimates based on available data, the USA has 61% active gamers. That's about 190.6 million people actively play video games, with many engaging deeply with console-based titles that feature iconic soundtracks. By contrast, the Philippines, with 43 million active gamers, have shifted its focus mainly to mobile and online games, leaving console gaming and its associated video game music culture less prominent. But that's not to say the Philippines hasn't had its sparks. There have been genuine efforts to bring video game music to Filipino audiences, like the Manila Symphony Orchestra's occasional free concerts held in malls, where they cover soundtracks from games like Monster Hunter, Genshin Impact, and Final Fantasy.
Genius symphonic works. It's easier to appreciate music when it is attached to visuals, stories, or characters.
I've also seen artists blending BGM into their own shows, creating moments of excitement for fans like me. These efforts are amazing, but they remain isolated and sporadic. No matter how successful a single concert or show may be, it's not nearly enough to create a lasting, multi-generational impact. Leaving Manila for the US was one of the hardest choices I've ever made, but one I had to make to chase my dreams. The cultural and entertainment demands in the Philippines often did not match with my own creative preferences. Video game music aligned with my musical expression, giving me the creative freedom I wanted. Pursuing a career in video game music requires a certain infrastructure, a community, and an industry that just barely existed in the Philippines. And unfortunately, it hasn't changed much since I left.
Siguro naman, naglaro niyo yung next game na tutugin namin. Legend of Zelda. Grabe, wala.
Nang may Nintendo Switch dito? Isa.
Who among you bought a GameCube? Nintendo GameCube. Grabe, ako lang.
After 5 years of being away, this recent trip really drove that point home. Being back in Manila was a reminder of everything I love about the Philippines: the people, the culture, the sense of home. But it also highlighted the challenges I would face if I tried to build my career there. The opportunities, the platforms, the pathways, they simply aren't there. At least, not yet. Here in the US, I am now part of a thriving network of creators, musicians, and fans who not only celebrate and analyze video game music, but also regard it as a serious and evolving art form. It is a medium that fills concert halls, is studied in academic settings, and inspires deep artistic expression. Here, at the heart of the Western gaming industry, I can collaborate with like-minded artists, perform to passionate audiences, and share my craft with a community that understands its cultural and artistic significance. An active participant in the trenches instead of a distant daydreamer, so to speak. I have landed record deals and snagged projects from mainstream gaming franchises such as Apex Legends. And one more upcoming project with a major US TV network, which I'm excited to discuss in a future video. Moreover, I have achieved financial independence through this work, proving that pursuing this art form can be both meaningful and sustainable. Going back to the question, how does one become a dedicated fan of video game music? It's not just about the access, though that can be a crucial first step. Having the means to play the games, hearing the soundtracks, and explore their worlds. It's not just about exposure either. though the right melody at the right moment can spark a lifelong passion. Becoming a fan of video game music is deeply personal, shaped by the places we come from, the culture we're immersed in, and the opportunities or barriers we face. For some, it might happen in an internet cafe, battling a Zerg rush in StarCraft, while faint strains of its atmospheric score play in the background. For others, it might come from hearing a symphony orchestra bring a beloved game to life, feeling the collective thrill of a community bound by shared nostalgia. And for a few, it means making difficult choices, leaving behind what's familiar, venturing to a place where that passion can be nurtured, and find the courage to chase a dream that once felt impossible. So, what kind of person has the audacity to dream so big that they leave everything behind for video game music? A dreamer. But not just any dreamer. One with skills, someone truly immersed in the gaming culture, a global network of like-minded friends, and a relentless thirst to prove oneself. Ultimately, being a fan of video game music is about connection. It's the bond we form with the soundtracks that define our favorite games, with the memories tied to them, and with the communities we find along the way. No matter where you're from, these melodies have the power to bring us together, to inspire us, and to remind us why we fell in love with gaming in the first place. And for me, that journey from the Philippines to the US, from nostalgia to opportunity, isn't just about becoming a fan. It's about carrying the music with me wherever I go and sharing its magic with others. I'd love to see video game music gain more recognition in the Philippines someday. I don't say this to call for action. I'm not looking to spark a movement or push an agenda. My hope is simply that more people can recognize the artistry and power of video game music, whether it's from the perspective of a Filipino gamer like me or someone from halfway across the world. Until then, I'm grateful for the journey that brought me here, for the opportunities I've found, and for every moment like this, where I can look back, share, and reflect on the power of video game music. Was it all worth it? Absolutely.
That was uploaded on YouTube, so it has some YouTubeisms like follow for more. But yes, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that. And before I open the floor for questions, I just like to reiterate, I think, the most important phrase: shared experience. I think that is the most powerful element that makes us passionate about one thing, because a lot of us, most 300 million Americans, have daily access to every single game, every single console, every game that exists. I think midnight launches where you all line up for the launch of the next Zelda in a GameStop, that's only an American thing. It doesn't happen in the Philippines because we have that shared experience here that we just digest everything about the games, the music, the art, the characters, and everything. And I think that is one aspect that I really admire here in American culture of gaming. And I think that is very hard to capture in another country like the Philippines, where it's not as easy to just buy a console and enjoy the next Zelda. So yeah, I think there are pros and cons, but I just share my thoughts on that. Anyway, I'm opening the floor for questions. Yes.
So, something you didn't touch on within the documentary was that why you went to Maryland, the DMV specifically. Did you initially come there like immediately, or were you like in California first? What happened?
Good question. Oh yeah, I was in California for a while because practically speaking, because I have an uncle there who was the first to reach out to me, hey, stay with us for a while you get used to life in America, you know. And I moved around with the support of my uncle in his house in Burbank. But then, you know, I went around and tried to find a spot for me. And I ended up with Maryland. And it is a big factor that we have the MagFest Center here. That is a big factor, of course. But also we have a ton of game dev companies as well. And we have a very strong local game dev community. Hello? And also because other concerns, I love the Four Seasons. The Philippines and California, almost the same place, except it rains more in the Philippines. And I'm already kind of 37 years of that. I like the snow. Yes.
I'm also a composer, at least an aspiring composer too. I just want to say my
He's a huge fan of you.
yeah, I am.
Thank you.
The superhero cover was amazing.
Woo!
That's part of why I actually was hearing that cover.
Amazing.
Every genuinely. And then the Spirit of Justice cover was really good too, because I think you did like in like the second half of the song, you did like this really unexpected key change that was really very.
Thank you.
So my question, this is something I've just been wondering. So when you were starting the channel initially, how did you? Well, I guess you mentioned your uncle was sustaining you as you were in the U.S. from what I heard, right?
Yeah, 2017, stayed with my uncle and then move around trying to find the perfect spot.
So if that wasn't the case, how would you sustain yourself as like a smaller peer? I have a chance. Do you have any tips on like growing in yourself before you get like a
Oh, I get it. I think I really got lucky. I would say Undertale and Mario and my Nintendo covers really carried me while I was in the Philippines. I think most of what I didn't touch on is just to give a bit of context. When I was still a full-time film composer in the Philippines, let's see, my yearly salary, my yearly income for a film composer would be $10,000. That's for the whole year. And that's in the Philippines. And in the Philippines, that's what you would consider middle class, something like that. And then the YouTube channel blew up. And I kept just spamming everything that I could. I poured my heart and soul and all my effort into the Undertale. And it blew up. And eventually, what I was earning on YouTube ad revenue was just overtaking my film income. So I was like, oh, maybe you should just focus that. And later on, the opportunity to move to America came in years later after that. Sure.
Did you ever run into like a conflict where you have an idea for like a new video or a new song, but there's something you want to release because you like the song versus, releasing something that you know people are going to.
Good question. I have a mantra, and I think I'm not alone in this. Even John Mayer said this. The mantra called "one for me, one for them." You kind of have to balance your output that will satisfy the audience, but also give yourself something. Maybe 2 covers for the requests, 1 cover for you, or maybe if it hits both spots, then that's good.
The transition to how you became a film composer to how you became a game composer, that is
Yeah.
But I'm also a composer myself. Not as good as you though. But
Don't be so hard on yourself.
I'm not doing that hard. But how did you film initially, and what was the reason?
Oh, when I was younger, I was like really thirsty to prove myself. I was like a young musician, fresh off a composition degree. I will just accept everything. $20 songwriting gig? Yeah, give it to me. I would just like say yes to everything until I got sort of the experience to kind of work in a fast-paced environment, and I just met people along the way.
What's your favorite soundtrack composed you've worked on?
Oh, this is a very funny question because yes, I have composed for games, but since I was in the Philippines when that happened, most of those games are mobile games that are now out of print. So I'm a video game composer with no game published now. But I have an upcoming one in this slide. I have a Zombiehood coming out April 30 on Steam. So yeah. And I mentioned something in the documentary. I was hired to write my first Hollywood film composing gig, The Cleaning Lady on Fox and Hulu. So it led to some really good things that I would not have experienced if I was still in the Philippines. Yes, sir.
I don't know if anyone's asked this, but do you have an absolute favorite video game song of all time?
KK Cruisin'. But mostly not because of the song, mostly because it is an arrangements. It's an arranger's darling. It's just two simple chord progressions that you can repeat and repeat, and every kind of musician in the world can jam along to it. That's it. Hello. Nice.
How do you get started, like, composing music if you don't know how to play any instruments?
You sing. Nice. Okay. No, I get what you mean. That's a struggle. I kind of sped run the struggle of being a composer or an artist because family of musicians, they were all supportive from the very beginning. So I would tinker on the piano and I'll just make up sounds. And my dad decided to notate that like a 5-note ostinato that I was doing on the piano. I was 5. Okay, this is your first composition. 4 bars. And I now don't know where that notation is. But it's just really brute forcing yourself to sometimes learn the technology. Very, very fortunate nowadays that there's every kind of tutorial. For my main workstation, I use Logic, but I never studied that in school. I never studied that in any institution. I just used YouTube tutorials. How do I write 1 note and then add a chord progression? The painstaking brute forcing stuff from the very beginning. Because, for example, you say you can sing, anyone here can sing and play an instrument. But now, how do you write that musical idea into like a cohesive structure and then add the body, the chord progression, the rhythm section, the drums? You need to force yourself. It's really painstakingly tedious, especially in the beginning. I couldn't even, how do I copy paste this? How do I make this MIDI into two? It's so, the minutia of the struggle from the beginning. I experienced that, and it's sadly something that you really have to go to. You have to dig up every single detailed tutorial from the very beginning, from scratch, and just kind of force yourself. It can be tedious, it can be boring, but it's absolutely worth it. I was actually expecting that question, and I already have a prepared answer. My answer would be absolutely nothing. I wouldn't trade anything. I wouldn't change anything because I really like where it led me today. So if I, for example, hypothetical situation, I saw myself and I have a chance to talk to myself, I'll just move further away from me because I don't want to interrupt the journey. Yes.
Following up on how you were talking about getting started and everything, I'm a game engineer by trade, but I'd like to make my own games on the side and everything. So I'd like to make my own video game music at some point.
Very nice.
No music background at all. So I was wondering, do you have any recommendations on any resources when getting started, like a specific YouTube video you liked or anything? And then as a follow-up,
Mm.
would you have like a recommended type of song to make? Is like baby's first video game song, just to kind of flex those muscles?
I think chiptune style is becoming more and more prominent nowadays. Especially you now have sound libraries, even free ones. The NES sound font, and now you can just make stuff with it. I would say, do you play any instrument, even just piano?
I did percussion like 15 years ago.
Okay, I think again, I would still say try to find a tutorial on how to use a DAW, a digital audio workstation. I think the most popular ones are Cubase, which Hans Zimmer uses, fun fact. Logic, which I use, and there's also Reaper and FL Studio. I think those are the big four. It's all the same. They all bring the same results. It's all just a matter of preference. And I would say try to fixate on one from scratch until you kind of learn how to input individual notes. You don't even need to actually know how to read notes, because the way these DAWs are structured is you have a grid instead of like a musical bar. So it's kind of very visual, and you hear the musical note as you input it, and you can just kind of make something out from that one.
Game companies have been putting on communities that don't have the resources to play these newer games. What are your thoughts on digital goods in the modern day being so expensive that these communities no longer have, good real access to those goods? And B, what are your thoughts on like emulators and piracy?
That's a bit of more economic question. But from the music side of things, I think the best that I can do is, because I did YouTube, because it is, and recently TikTok as well, because these are the platforms that are technically still free to use, free to access. And my best contribution that I can do as a musician, as an artist, is just spread the word of, like I said in the documentary, the power of video game music, and let the business people like deal with the business side of things. Because I'm also a businessman myself. My Lionmight is actually a registered LLC in the state of Maryland, and is a registered trademark in America. So I'm serious, very serious about this. But of course, my specialty is still has always been video game music and everything that surrounds it. So I would say the best I can do is make the best product that I can, post it on YouTube, where people that can still access it relatively free. I mean, we all know about the adpocalypse and all the ads like rising up, but it's still technically free because you don't pay for it with money. But nowadays, I would say paying for it with attention or time is also a consideration, especially if you're spending 90 seconds to watch an ad, to watch a 2-minute video. Maybe that's also something worth considering now for people's attention. I think I saw someone raising their hand here. Yeah.
Video game music is really great when it's created like art, story, etc. But you also have a very strong point on shared culture.
Yeah.
That gives like the music kind of its meaning. So I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on like video game music, or how video game music truly reaches people? Like as a composer, how do you create music that reaches people, possibly using those shared culture? And also, one more context.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Cadence Hira? The YouTuber Cadence Hira.
I might have. I'm not yet sure. But yeah, that's a very good question. And I would say there's still some degree of luck. You can make the best symphony, the best concerto, but if you release it on a game that flops, that only 10 people bought, there's no shared experience there. It's only like shared experience between 10 people, but Clair Obscure Expedition 33. Big, massive hit, big career bomb for Lorient Testard. Now his music, that was discovered in SoundCloud, by the way, according to his interview, just blew up, and it's now in everyone's minds. Alicia, the Lumiere themes, everyone's now just singing it. It's the Megalovania of 2025, I would say. There is some degree of luck that you need. And sometimes, from my end, also as a content creator, that degree of luck comes with occasional virality. And the great thing about starting as a cover artist is with covers like Undertale, Mario, there is already a built-in audience for that. There already exists a massive audience with a shared experience that you can just take advantage of. And that is pretty much the crux of every YouTube video game cover artist that started with me in the early 2010s, and I'm still in contact with them. But since, and I think just to give a context on why now my channel is mostly reaction videos to music and musical analysis, it's because YouTube's algorithm downgraded 3-minute long videos in favor of 10-minute videos, 20-minute videos, and now 50-minute videos to cater to the smart TV audience. So I have to consider all of these statistics if I just want to continue, being sustainable as a creator. Nowadays, there is now bigger ad revenue income from the reaction videos simply because it's longer videos, and it's now there's more opportunities for YouTube to insert 20,000 ads in between, something like that. So now my mindset has changed. I went back to my roots as a composer because for a time, I would say 2010 to 2018, that was the golden age of video game music covers on YouTube. I know a lot of people like Rashad Eby, Family Jewels, Jonathan Young. They have built massive careers out of YouTube covers or making music inspired by video game music, especially with the case of Jonathan Young. He writes original music, but the lyrics is about Helldivers 2 or something like that. And nowadays, it's shifted again. Music analysis, video essays, music reactions, that is where the money is at in terms of ad revenue. So now, okay, I said to myself, it took me a while to kind of accept this because my pride was hurt. I built a YouTube cover career for like 10 plus years, and now I have to throw it all away because the algorithm does not favor it. It was a hard decision, but now I changed my mindset. I'm now doing music reactions, but the ad revenue coming from that is now funding my own compositions. I'm now creating, for example, right now I'm halfway to producing my very first fantasy metal album under Lionmight. It's going to be the debut album of Lionmight as an original artist. And I'm halfway funding it, and I'm hiring my own mixing engineers. Although I can do one, someone else can do it better. So I hire better people than me. So I just focus on writing the music, and the money that I get from the reaction videos is paying for those sound engineers, the album design artists. So, there's something that has to give if you want to shift focus on something like that. So, and I would still attribute that success to video game music because I'm still reacting and doing musical theory analysis of video game music. So even if I'm not doing my own arrangement of Undertale or Megalovania anymore, I'm doing music theory breakdowns of what are the chord progressions of Megalovania and how does it affect the structure or the history of something very nerdy that I can still kind of tolerate and do because it's something I'm good at. Sir.
you're the String Player Gamer.
Thank you.
Your Mega Man 3 covers of Hard Man and Magnet Man, I listened to those offline and downloaded them on a plane to Alaska.
Wow.
So your music's been 50,000 feet above the air. But
Thank you.
what would you say was the hardest part about transitioning brand images from String Player to Lion?
I think it wasn't really hard at all, to be honest. From my own point of view, I mean, rebranding is hard. You know, even just changing the logo. You know, the latest brand products that changed their logo and everyone went nuts. For me, I think it was easier because my vision was very clear. String Player Gamer, although a cute name, I'm not gonna lie, it is a cute name. It has sustained me for years, but it is still a YouTuber's name. It is very niche locked. String Player Gamer. Oh, I want to play anime music. I want to play Princess Mononoke theme in a convention. String Player Gamer with Princess Mononoke theme from an anime. What? There's a mismatch now. It's not just because of anime. Because now I wanted to branch out. Although my focus is still video game music, there's still a lot of wonderful music outside of video game music. So now with the Lionmight brand, which is very connected to my real name, lucky for me, but I also use it for MMOs. It's my handle for every other online game. And I was just like, I already have this handle I've been using for years. That's my new brand. And it still now it's, for me personally, it sounds better as like a regular artist name, like Sting, Madonna, Prince. I took inspiration from those one name kind of musical artists. And for me, it was easy for the transition to name the change because I was preparing for it for like maybe 5 years on and off. I was like writing announcement and redrafting announcements like for like 1 year on and off, and like going back, should I do this, should I not do this? And I talked to every friend, every trusted family member, should I do this, should I not do this? It was a super long journey of yes or no, but then you know what, this is the moment. I'm gonna do this. And it was like a 2-year announcement period where every single published new video has like announced, oh, by the way, I'm rebranding. So it was very prominent in all of my social media that it was very organic, I would say. Yeah.
Do you think that you being a YouTuber has brought you opportunities that there's no way you would have gotten if you didn't do YouTube?
Yeah, absolutely. Because YouTube is such a freeing platform that you can just shape it on whatever you want, provided that you can tap the audience for that. I think that's the most important thing. It's not just I want to do this, but I want to do this and there's an audience for that. And I think that, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Rick, and thank you for Game Dev Club. Yes, Lionmight on YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you so much.